online, on Radio Player, and on 106.6 FM. This is Wycombe Sound, the Wycombe Wanderers Show.
Welcome along to our Christmas Eve special of the Wycombe Wanderers Show. Well, I say special, it just happens to be on Christmas Eve.
It's exciting though, isn't it?
Do you feel Christmassy?
Very, very Christmassy.
Looking forward to the festive fixtures.
Santa's on his way, and so are 3 points for Wycombe on Boxing Day. Fingers crossed.
That's quite catchy.
Oh yeah, yeah. We could turn it in. Next year we could do the Christmas single, the Wycombe Wanderers Show Christmas single.
Yeah, we got
Santa's on his way.
Got a year to plan that.
Yes.
Thank you so much for having us on. Coming up in this special, as we're calling it, we'll be giving you another chance to catch up with our interview with Wycombe Wanderers' second most successful manager, Martin O'Neill. That was very well received, so we've got that. And we've got some, well, wouldn't call them outtakes, would you?
No, lowlights, I think was how I described them. Bits that didn't quite go as planned, mainly featuring me or Wycombe Wanderers players and staff.
Also, we'll be hearing from Pete Couhig on what was at the time going into Tier 3, but now, of course, we've been promoted to Tier 4.
Yes, or relegated, depending on which way you want to look at it, really.
So we'll look back at the QPR game, look ahead to Bristol City this evening as well. Plus, I must say congratulations to Ryan Comley from Amersham, who is our winner of last week's competition. We teamed up with Claude Bernard, who was the official Wycombe Wanderers watch supplier, and we asked you to tell us what was the time, Clever,
yes,
of
it was
Wycombe Wanderers' first championship goal.
Sounds like somebody who'd have like a Bosman sort of like, transfer, wouldn't he? Claude Bernard, he signed for Wycombe on a free. The answer was 9 minutes, incidentally, with the question, of course, being the time of the first championship goal. Scott Cashket scoring it after 9 minutes in our game against Millwall.
What a fantastic occasion, and great to be there as well.
It was very good, and it was so just a relief that actually A, we scored a goal, and B, that we scored the goal, because there was definitely a bit of talk around that you know how this season's going to go. We're going to score an own goal as our first goal, but no, it was Scott Cashket. Wasn't exactly the nicest goal you'll ever see, but they all count.
Talking of goals, got a goal on Saturday.
We did, yes. And it's Mehmeti stepping up right towards the end of our game against QPR, and I was just beginning to actually think, I can't quite see us scoring this half. And throughout the season, I keep tweeting things, and normally the wrong way round. So normally I will tweet saying, "Wow, lots of Wycombe pressure, looking really hopeful. You can see the goal coming," and then we go 2-0 down. Well, on Saturday it was completely the other way around. I was in mid-type of saying I can't really see where the goal's coming from this afternoon, and then Anis Mehmeti stepped up and equalised.
Because you must have gone into that game. We've spoken before about thinking that QPR are not in a great run. They're one of those teams that we can really... I'm doing the same strange hand signal. They're one of those...
It works well on radio.
Looks like a very small melon I'm holding. I don't know why. They're one of those teams that you think, we can get something against them.
I mean, I think also that is actually the importance to our survival, is that really the game on Saturday was a 6-pointer, in that I think QPR will be one of those teams in and around, as they say, Wycombe Wanderers at the end of the season. And it's vital that actually those are games that we get points out of, because clearly if we get the 3 points and QPR don't, that makes a big difference. It's all well and good getting draws against the big teams, say the Watfords. We were so close against Norwich, we were so close against Bournemouth at getting points, but actually it's the teams in and around us down at the bottom that those are the games that we really need to win, particularly now in the second half of the season. And so it was good that at least we managed to get a draw against QPR. Shame that we didn't get a win. But onwards and upwards. And Bristol City again, now you look at a team that aren't actually on a fantastic run at the moment, considering where they were earlier on this season. So I think we'll be going there, with hope. And as Gareth keeps saying, it's not a team that nobody really will want to play Wycombe Wanderers at the moment. We are that sort of banana skin type team.
And great to have Anis Mehmeti as another source of goals.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he does look so exciting. He is a fantastic prospect. He's one of those players that you think, one day we're going to be seeing him grace the Premier League. Brilliant that he's at Wycombe. Really, really well done to Gareth and all the team for actually picking him up. Obviously, he was released by Norwich, came into our B team. Well, he hasn't, a bit like us being in Tier 3, he hasn't really stayed in the B team for very long, has he?
Topical.
He is going to be great, and brilliant that he got his first goal on Saturday.
And Bob spoke to Gareth after the game to find out a little more about the goal scorer and how he came to be at the club.
He's come, he was released by Norwich. You've got to give credit to Bob Rickwood and Sam Grace who put the B team together. They saw Anis, they brought him in on trial. He shone. Oh, there's the stadium falling apart. No, we're okay. he came in and he's impressed in the B team. But I also have to give some credit to Rob Couhig for having the foresight to start a B team and to start the structure that this club has been crying out for. We've had a fantastic academy going back 15 years before I was in charge. Jordan Ibe, Matty Phillips, Courtney House, players who are playing in the Premier League and Championship week in, week out now, and Jordan's money probably saved this club from going out of business at one stage. So that proves that there is this income from these youngsters. It's just getting the right youngsters in. So Rob has had the foresight to go, right, let's not just plough everything into the first team. Let's not try and plough everything just to survive, like mistakes so many clubs have made. Let's start this youngster sort of development squad, and Anis has become part of that. And believe me, I think Anis will probably pay for that tenfold, because he's going to be an asset for this club. It's brilliant to have him, and for him to score his first championship goal is just phenomenal. Really proud of him. It's been coming. He scored some absolute bangers in training, just really proud of the young Albanian kid today. He's a great talent to have, and he's come up with the goods. We could have had a few more, I thought, a few good chances today, but unfortunately it just wasn't to be.
It must be quite frustrating as well to be you, in the fact that the referee didn't give the handball, and that also we scored an own goal. Yet again, the opposition didn't really have to work very hard to get the ball in our net.
Listen, I'll back every single one of my players, no matter. That's where we are at Wycombe, because I know they back me. The moment we start pointing fingers is the moment that it's gone wrong here, and we win and lose, we live and die together, and that's how it'll always be. Own goals for, referees' decisions, no matter what. All I can say is those boys are so together in that dressing room, you wouldn't believe it. I'm really proud of what we've got here at Wycombe Wanderers, and I'm looking forward to proving everyone wrong and staying in this championship.
And I think you could tell that it obviously was a handball, because Josh and I've never seen him look so cross.
The worrying thing was we lost our heads as a team for 5 minutes, and I'm not surprised because it is blatant, but you've got to get your heads back in the game. Let me deal with the referee afterwards. But I was pleased that QPR didn't score their one free kick chance that they had when our heads were all over the place. Ryan Allsop's luckily was there, but unfortunate. It seemed to have gone against us again today. It's what you get when you're at the bottom of the league, so let's get off that bottom of the league, boys, and might get some decisions going for us.
And we've got Bristol City on Boxing Day, a team that started off very well, not quite so well recently. Yeah,
they're beatable as well. I watched Preston last night, beat them, and we took Preston all the way and should have won that game. So this league's open. There's about 4 or 5 teams at the top of the league which will probably be there. The 3 that came down, I'm no doubt are going to be there at the end of the season. And maybe 1 or 2 others, but apart from that, I think we're in a pretty competitive position, and like I say, let's get above 3 teams and make sure that our fans can come here next season and watch Championship football, because at the moment it doesn't look like anyone's coming back soon.
And finally, on that point, I know that there'll be a lot of depressed Chairboys fans today for the fact that they weren't allowed in. Also, during the game, as possibly you're aware, we've now had the news that we're in Tier 4 from tomorrow, so even more restrictions. Have you got a Christmas message for the Wycombe fans?
Thank you so much, right? Because you've given me a great Christmas year after year with your support, and I am to deliver your present in May, and that'll be Championship survival.
Definitely look forward to that. It's not great as it goes into the Christmas period, bottom of the table, but
no.
As Gareth says, it's still close. Anyone can beat anybody. Plenty of points to play for. It's a season of 2 halves.
Yeah, all of those, but they're cliches really, because they're true.
Yes,
that yes, and you look at last season, and you look at Luton, and you look at Barnsley, who at this time looked completely gone, and people were saying, they'll definitely be in League One. You do start picking up those points, particularly, it shouldn't be the case, but particularly when you can sort of see that, if we win this game, it's going to make a massive difference to the end of the season. That's all well and good in I was going to say August, but obviously this year it was September. Whereas we all know that actually March, April, when you're really staring relegation in the face, that's the time when actually those teams at the bottom are really hard to play. And I think that will definitely be us. I know we've said it again, time and again on this programme, we've not been outclassed in any game other than the Blackburn game this season. We do look like a Championship side, albeit a Championship side down the bottom of the table, but we're certainly not in the role of, say, FA Cup giant killers every game. We are actually looking like we are now established in the Championship, and players like Scott Cashgett, really do look very, very comfortable. Jack Grimmer had a really good game on Saturday. Another one who looks comfortable at this level.
I was wondering, because you've actually been to the games, but does it feel still, like, we've not really played that many Championship fixtures, although it looks a bit, 20 seems quite a lot, doesn't it?
It really does. It's a surprise to discover that we are now almost halfway through the fixtures, because the season doesn't seem to have lasted nearly as long as it normally would. I know it only started a month later, but yes, it's a sort of a surprise both ways. It's like, oh goodness me, we really have crammed those fixtures in, haven't we? The schedule, when you look at it, actually in the new year, it does get a little bit easier. It's not quite as, Tuesday, Wednesday night, then Saturday, then another Tuesday, Wednesday. So that's good. But I also think it's a little bit dangerous as well, that we must realise, we are now halfway through the season. It really is time to start picking up the performances. Gareth has said to me a lot after the good performances, he said it again against Bournemouth on the Tuesday night, was that if we play like that, we're not going to go down. And I think the thing that we need to start doing is we need to start playing like we do against the Bournemouths and against the top sides, against the QPRs and against the Barnsleys and against the Rotherhams, because that, as I said earlier, that I think is the key to survival. It's great to play well against Bournemouth. It's real testimony to the side, to Gareth, to the coaching staff. But the games where we need to really start performing and taking it to those teams are the teams that are going to be down with us at the end of the season, because that's how we're going to survive.
I hope the players are listening. Bob could be your new manager.
No, I wouldn't be very good at that.
It's the Wycombe Wanderers Show, Christmas edition, still to come. We'll hear from Martin O'Neill and some collaboration, that might not be the right word, of our lighter, hearty moments of the show. But off air, you mentioned that there was quite a different atmosphere at Adams Park on Saturday.
There really was. So when we arrived, the news about Tier 4, it hadn't obviously been confirmed because Boris didn't speak to the nation until I think it was 4 o'clock, but there were definitely rumours already. Normally, before the game, even when the fans aren't there is a bit of a buzz. There's a bit of a buzz in the press area. They're obviously with the players and the coaching staff. There's a bit of an atmosphere. On Saturday, it was very noticeable straight away that actually people weren't necessarily focusing, or certainly the players, of course, were, but actually everybody else in the stadium wasn't focusing 100% on the football, because suddenly this news was coming through about Tier 4, about the fact that actually people's Christmas plans were basically in jeopardy. And so, the whole place, it was a sort of, I wouldn't say sombre, that's possibly overstating it slightly, but it wasn't the usual buzz that you got on a Saturday afternoon, even when the fans aren't there. It was wonderful that we managed to get that equaliser, because had we not got that, I think actually quite a lot of people of the light blue and dark blue persuasion would have been going home slightly depressed. But yes, Anis Mehmeti came to our rescue to cheer us up. But Pete Couhig has been very, very vocal about this, and has, particularly when the news about Tier 3 was released, was very, very annoyed, I think is probably the way to say it, partly because he clearly is someone who actually does study the data. He's not actually speaking with regards to the fact that fans aren't being allowed in the stadium. He's actually speaking generally, as somebody who now lives in this country, about what he feels, and he's looked at the data and he doesn't necessarily feel that actually the restrictions are fair. He spoke to Sky Sports News, really, really interesting interview.
It was a little bit of a surprise. Our staff had been working incredibly hard to get everything right for the pilot event, to get everything right for the 2000 event. Things went off without a hitch. There were no problems. Everybody felt, the comments that we got with everybody felt safer than at a grocery store. Honestly, I'm angry. Our staff has spent a lot of time getting ready, doing everything right, and now we just got to shut it off. And it's not like we didn't. We had to work hard. We had to get ready, and now 48 hours before the event, it just gets pulled. So, yeah, it's frustrating.
Pete, are you angry because you think it's the wrong decision, or just because of the upheaval and the implications financially looking to the future?
Both. I do think it's the wrong decision. Our MP, Steve Baker, was surprised as well, and I think it's because we're both stats nerds who actually look at underlying factors. I really thought at least South Bucks could escape it. There's obviously a couple of hot spots in Buckinghamshire that brought the numbers up. But, to be completely honest, when you look at the numbers of all the factors they're supposed to be considering, it's a shock.
But you mentioned those underlying factors. I'm interested by that. So what are those factors that you think would have made this a different outcome had they been considered?
I mean, without going into the details, I don't have it in front of me. I'm a stats nerd, so I don't like just coming up with them out of my mouth without looking at them. And it was yesterday, and I'm going to admit I went out and got a pint last night before this entire town gets locked down.
Yeah, I don't blame you. Look, I mean, last month or earlier this month, you had fans back for the Stoke game after 9 months without them. I suppose you must have felt, look, we've turned a corner and on we go. But what was it like to have those fans back?
That's really what it is. That's absolutely what it is. That probably stems most of my anger was seeing how well-behaved people could be, how people paid attention to the rules. We're obviously the most regulated business in England as far as supporters coming into the ground, and so they want to be here, so they followed the rules. I went around and I talked to the police, I talked to the security. Everybody was happy with what we did. But I guess the central government just came up with a little bit different decision than the last couple of weeks. Really just the shifting sands under our feet is making a very difficult business even more difficult. So, yeah, I mean, it's very frustrating running a football club right now. I can promise you that.
And you're just feeling that there's no consistency or continuity with the decisions being made by government and that is actually impacting football and damaging things potentially for the future?
Look, I know their job is hard. I know some tough decisions are having to be made. But they're not giving me a lot of confidence right now. And I hate to say that because I have a tremendous respect for how difficult governmental bodies are, regulatory bodies are. And I know these are crazy times. But if the definition of insanity is keeping doing the same thing over and over again, and the more data we have, the more understanding we have of this virus, it feels like some different approaches could be taken. And they're not even trying. It doesn't seem like it. So it's just I'm sure I'm like everybody else who is just exasperated with what are the rules now? What are the rules tomorrow? What are the rules that we're supposed to follow? And when I drive around town and when I go to a grocery store and I see what's going on in a grocery store, what was going on here last Saturday, I can promise you I felt more comfortable in our stadium than I do trying to get groceries.
Yeah, Pete, I mean, they're feelings, I think, that would be felt by a lot of people and would understand exactly your emotion with this at the moment. And what about Gareth Ainsworth? How did he take this news, especially with Saturday's match due to be against his former club QPR?
I'm actually disappointed in myself because Gareth and I are both two of the most optimistic people on the planet, but I keep getting punched in the stomach, so it's a little hard this morning. Gareth was, and at its core, It is what's us, and we will go Saturday. It's extremely disappointing because Gareth played at QPR. That's going to be a heck of a home match here at Adams Park, and we wanted 2,000 supporters here to enjoy that one with us right before Christmas. Maybe that's a little bit of it as well. We had fans in here for a couple of matches, and now to get taken away right before the holiday season, it's like somebody stole Santa's present from under our tree.
Yeah, I mean, look, as you rightly allude to there, Christmas is an important time financially for clubs. You'd already given the tickets or sold the tickets for that QPR game. What will the impact be, do you think? I know it's impossible to tell where you'll be in 2 or 3 months, but financially, with Christmas now not being what you thought it was going to be in terms of having those 2,000 fans in the stadium, financially, what does it mean for you at Wycombe?
Not an easy year to be a CFO of a football club. Fortunately, we think in scenarios, and we're trying to plan for everything. We took a very conservative approach this year because we knew the turnover number wasn't going to be what it would normally be in the championship, so we're prepared as well as we can be. With the 2,000 level, it was really just about taking care of our supporters, our season ticket holders, and getting them in here. One of the things that I worry about are, the unintended consequences of rules like we have. I just don't think enough. They're so laser focused on the virus that there's going to be some unintended consequences as a result of locking down people for a year that I don't think we're truly going to know about, especially with the data until the future. And many times, many times, it's the unintended consequences of governmental public policy that really shapes what people think about the decisions that politicians make. And I just think, again, their job's difficult, but hindsight and the 2020 that hindsight's going to have on this situation, I can't wait to see the post-op, to see how we should do things differently, because I can promise you this, it doesn't feel like we're doing it the right way to me.
Really interesting to hear from Wycombe Wanderers Chief Financial Officer Pete Couhig, speaking on Friday, of course, when Tier 3 was looming.
Yes, indeed. We didn't even know then about Tier 4, but yes, speaking before the QPR game, which is why obviously he was mentioning that. But really interesting to hear from him, because, as he said, you speak to him, you speak to Gareth, they are two of the most positive people going, and clearly Pete was very, very angry. I've never heard him that cross before.
Still to come on the Christmas Eve edition of the Wycombe Wanderers Show, we'll give you another chance to hear our chat with Martin O'Neill, and also we'll look back on some lighter-hearted moments from the show. There have been some here at Wycombe Sound.
Love music, love talk, love Wycombe Sound.
Welcome back to the second part of the Wycombe Wanderers Show, Christmas Eve. Happy Christmas. Yeah, I see you say Happy Christmas, don't you?
Yes, you can.
That's
yes.
Right.
You don't say Merry New Year, though.
No.
Which is strange, because actually that would be far more appropriate, the state that most people are in.
Still to come on this special show, we'll look back at some lighter-hearted moments from the shows that we've done, including Bob's driving, some other interesting use of language as well. That's to come. But also, I must say a big thank you and happy Christmas to Alan Hutchinson and JDT, the Ex-Players Association, who've been fantastic with us in sorting us out with some brilliant interviews over the past few weeks.
And thank you also to Matt Cecil and all at Wycombe Wanderers for giving us access, for allowing me to attend to the games during lockdown. We are very, very grateful for all that they have done. Time now, though, to play our favourite interview that we have done so far on the Wycombe Wanderers Show, when Colin spoke to none other than Martin O'Neill. We spoke to him just after a rather appropriate game against Nottingham Forest.
Really appreciate your time. Thank you so much for speaking to us, and really timely that we speak to you in the week of Wycombe Wanderers played Nottingham Forest in the second tier of English football, something which I guess you couldn't have imagined 25 years ago when you were in charge at Adams Park, or perhaps that was something that you thought would be possible.
Well, I think that naturally our ambition was to try and become a Football League team. Wycombe Wanderers, I went down there in the year 1990, and obviously they were a very strong Vauxhall Conference side at the time. But life was changing as it does. I think that the wonderful amateur record, Wycombe, and some terrific history as well too, the old Lokes Park Stadium. But things were changing. At the time, Ivor Beeks had become chairman, very, very ambitious, wanting to drive on. And Adams Park was being built at the time. Lokes Park was going to finish, which was a bit of history, and I was sorry to see it go, that old sloping pitch. But nevertheless, it was a new dawn, as it were. And of course, ambition was actually quite high. So the remit for me was, I think, was to try and get the team into the Football League.
Is what you achieved then, is it comparable to getting into the Championship? Now, obviously, it's so different, and the team obviously being part-time and going to full-time as well.
Well, I think that what we had, we just when we became a Football League team, we had obviously it had been tough. My first year, we won the FA Trophy, which is something that Ivor always wanted to achieve, and that was great. And I was as genuinely as delighted for him as I was for myself, of course, and the players. So we pushed on, and we ended up with the same number of points as Colchester, who had been relegated a couple of years before that from the Football League itself, but had been able to retain professional status, and all their players were full-time status. So it was a struggle all year. We ended up with 94 points. I think the third team had Kettering, I think, had about 70 points. So for us to miss out in goal difference there was really, really tough to take. But the players come back with a fantastic attitude. We ended up winning the double and hence taking ourselves into the Football League. Now, this is the point that I wanted to make, is that our first season, we went up through the playoffs, beating no less a side than Preston North End. And the following year, we were in with the likes of Birmingham City and teams like that. And this was all very, very new to us, new to the players. And I think that's the only year where one team would go up automatically into what is now the Championship, and 4 teams would contest the playoffs. And we finished 6th again in our first year in the what would be called now the First Division. So we went very, very close. And had we gone into the playoffs, who knows? Our record was really good in that. We might have made it into the Championship in 2 consecutive years. However, it didn't materialise. As I said, we finished 6th, and I think Huddersfield Town, for instance, I think might have been one of the teams that went up along with Birmingham City, who went up automatically. So those are the teams that we were competing against at that particular stage. It was great experience. So the comparisons, I think, would be there. Of course, the same contrast you could imagine as well. But the achievement of the team now today has been absolutely fantastic, really, really fantastic. So I think that we did all have an ambition to try and as go up as far as we possibly could in the English League. But to wait that length of time now to achieve that in the Championship was really remarkable.
Did it feel like a big step up? Because we spoke to Glyn Creaser recently on the show, and he was saying it was like an ambition fulfilled when you offered him a full-time contract, because obviously he had all the players had other jobs at the time as well, and then to compete in the Football League as well.
Well, it was. Well, first of all, let me say about Glyn Creaser. My first couple of weeks at Wycombe, way back in 1990, was to try and convince Glyn Creaser to stay at the football club, and having a meeting with him one night in Bisham Abbey as we did our training at night time down in the plastic surfaces at Bisham Abbey was as big an achievement as I terrific with the players as well too. You know, and all the players looked up to him immensely, and he was a big driving force. So I think he had been tapped up by Barry Fry again at Barnet, and there was a possibility he could earn more money and such things like this here at Barnet. But he decided to stay with us, which was terrific, and hopefully he didn't regret it. So at the age, I think, what age was he? About 30 or 31, for him to come in and want to become a full-time professional footballer when we made it into the Football League again was a big moment. And I think some of the players would have followed Glyn as well too in that aspect. Everybody, I think only Mark West, who decided, his particular job and perhaps maybe didn't want to do it, become a full-time professional. By the way, West was also a terrific footballer for us. His goal in the against Kidderminster, where he at Wembley to win the FA Trophy, I think just epitomised him. But the players all became professional players, and again found the step up unbelievably difficult to begin with. But as the early weeks disappeared into months of that particular season, we got a grip of things. And to be fair, I don't think we were actually ever out of the top 6 or 7 for most of the season.
It was such an attacking, attractive football as well to watch. Reminded recently, speaking to JDT from the Ex-Players Association, who, as I'm sure you know, put together this fantastic video of you speaking in 2012 at the Veer Suite, and there are clips in there of that first game against Carlisle, and it's so fantastic to sort of recall the great performances and a fantastic group of players as well from that time.
Absolutely, and in terms of attitude, in terms of enthusiasm, in terms of enjoyment, I would put it up there. I would put my time at Wycombe alongside any my time at Aston Villa, my time at Celtic, and my time at Leicester City. There, There was a fantastic camaraderie. I know it's an overused word, but it really was. It was evocative of the team. They were willing to fight for each other the whole time. But there was an enjoyment during our training sessions as well. And we weren't blessed with any great training ground or anything like this here. We tried different places. We finally settled up at Holmer Green for a while, where there was a man and his wife looked after us very, very well. And they were terrific to us. And after training, the buns and the sandwiches would come out. Honestly, it really was a super, super time for us. And of course, with the results going well on the pitch, that helps immensely. And I look back on that there with really fond memories.
And so many positions as well where you think, oh, fantastic players, in goal, people like John Granville and Paul Hyde, a fantastically strong back line as well, people like Steve Guppy, Dave Carroll, they were all, fantastic to watch. Keith Scott, you mentioned Mark West as well, some fantastic players and really great sort of Saturday afternoon to spend watching the team.
Oh, you've mentioned all of those players. All of those players played an enormous part in proceedings, absolutely. They were terrific footballers, and I think really underrated. And by that I mean when I went to Wycombe, first of all, we had Glyn Creaser, Matty Crosley, the Stevie Guppy, Andy Kerr, and the three back players that I'm talking about. I'm talking about Crosley, a super player, and Andy Kerr and Glyn Creaser. All were magnificent in the air, really, really magnificent. I thought to myself, well, I've got a real chance here because these players can head the ball. And I've been at Grantham, a couple of leagues below that there for a little while, and these players here at Wycombe were on a different level. So, unfortunately, or fortunately for me, I got the job because they'd been on a bit of a bad run, culminating and losing in the FA Trophy to the Metropolitan Police, and I think things got a bit scary for a while. But the players themselves, when I arrived down there, they just needed a bit of confidence building as much as anything else. Stevie Guppy goes on to play for England, and on one occasion, that's a remarkable achievement. Davy Carroll, players like this. Finally, during the summertime, Keith Ryan joined us. His cousin brought him to pre-season. Never looked back. Simon Stapleton. I can go through the whole team. They were just terrific footballers.
And you must be so pleased with the support as well that increased the longer that you were there as well. So it's great atmospheres at Adams Park and away as well. And obviously you mentioned the FA Trophy final against Kidderminster. It just felt like the whole town had gone. And you turn up at the station, you see people that you live with or live near. There are people at the ground that you used to go to school with, and it was a really brilliant feeling to get behind the team and such a great day out.
Oh, absolutely, yes, remarkable. I think it was the biggest crowd ever for an FA Trophy final. I think the Kidderminster game, I think there was either 35 or 37,000 people at the game, and we brought about 25,000 people. It was it really was fantastic for us, and for the fans to be there that particular day, to enjoy it, for us to go on to win the game and achieve something at that stage. And of course, that became the springboard for the success that followed.
So on a Saturday, I'd be sort of stood on the terrace amongst a group of people who'd be saying, Martin, give us a wave, Martin, and you would wave, and everyone would cheer. That'd be great. Is that something you're always pleased to do, or were there days when you thought, well, I don't really want to wave today? I'd rather focus on the game, to be honest.
Oh no! I would rather had somebody shouting, "Martin, give us a wave," than tell Martin to go and stick the team somewhere else or something like that. But no, not at all. Absolutely not. It was great for the fans to actually to want to participate in it and to actually enjoy it. And for most of the times, we really did enjoy it. Of course, there are moments there where it didn't go so well for us. And one of the couple of fans behind me, I remember a gentleman once. It was really funny. An oldish man. He stood pretty close to where the teams come out, just to the right hand side, almost like a little enclosure in there. And I forget his name. We'll call him Fred at this moment. I'm sure he's long passed away. But I think we drew a game with Kidderminster at home, 2-2. It was really very, very good game. And I think that's at that stage of the 21 home games, I think we'd taken about 57 points out of a possible 63, but we'd drawn this day. And as we walked past going, obviously disappointed, I think we conceded a late goal. I remember him saying to me, O'Neill, that's just not good enough. And I turned and I had a bit of a go at him. I said, what are you talking about, not good enough? That's just not good enough, for us. And I said to him, thinking because he was in that little enclosure, he might have had a free ticket. And I said, did you pay to get in here? And he said, of course I did. I said, well, you're entitled to criticise. You're fine. Absolutely. Because I thought if he'd had a freebie, he wouldn't have been entitled to give us that sort of criticism. But because he had actually paid his money, he could say what he wanted. And that was eventually didn't feel like a problem to me when I get into the dressing room.
It's great to get the opportunity to obviously to speak to. I'm sure many fans, will have heard you speaking on TV and stuff like that. But we spoke to Glyn Creaser and Terry Evans as well, and said, what's it like to play under him? And Terry Evans made a great comment. He said, he can be very tough sometimes. He could ruin you with just a sentence, which I think are fantastic. And we mentioned the video that's on YouTube with JDT, and there's a fantastic story you tell about one of your players who you told to get warmed up because you're bringing him off, which.
Yeah, that was strangely enough, that was actually a very, very good player. That was John Hartson, and John Hartson was a terrific footballer, really, really great goal scorer inside the penalty area. But John was a wee bit lazy. He would always say to me, "My job is to score goals, and that's fine." So we didn't worry too much about him playing outside the penalty area. But when I went in there, he scored goals, and alongside Henrik Larsson and Chris Sutton, he formed a big part of Celtic's team. But he was rather lazy, and there was moments in the game where I wanted him to do a little bit more. And after about 15 or 20 minutes in one particular game, he actually hadn't touched the ball. And so I remember shouting over to him, it's almost in a joking fashion, it's saying to him, "John, get warmed up, you're coming off." And he didn't take it all that kindly either, believe it or not. And he was a big fellow as well too. So I didn't want to really face up to him at half time in the game. But you mentioned Terry Evans there. Terry was another player. I remember Jason Cousins, who was a great player for us. Jason I picked up on a free transfer from Brentford, and Jason was again integral part of the success that we had. But he mentioned to me about Terry Evans, and Terry wasn't too happy down at Brentford at the time. The two of them had been good friends, and I thought that there might be an opportunity to bring Terry to the football club, and so we paid £40,000 for him, which was a lot of money for us at the time. And Terry started off, first couple of games, because he hadn't played so regularly for Brentford in the previous couple of months. He didn't start off too cleverly for us, and really did play quite poorly for a couple of games. But I remember saying to him, "Terry, what is up?" He said, "Oh, Gaffer, just give me a little bit of time." He said, "My timing's off at the moment." I remember him saying that, "My timing's off." And I thought to myself, well, that's not just the only thing that's off at this minute. Everything else doesn't seem to be all that clever. But anyway, he pulled himself around. We stayed with him, and then, as I've often said, carried the team for about the next 18 months. He was absolutely super. Came in at a time as well too when Glyn Creaser had picked up a very serious injury himself. He was massive for us in every aspect of the word. Absolutely big character, big in the dressing room again, and great leader.
You mentioned the achievement of getting into the Championship a short time ago. It must have been fantastic for you to be at the Rotherham game, the very first game in the Championship.
You know what? It was a couple of things about that. One, delighted to be asked down. I got a text message from Gareth saying, "Would you be interested in coming to the game?" Absolutely. Then I got in touch with the young lady, and she told me what to do. And so obviously with COVID and things like this here, so you had to be careful. So I got tested. And then I went round the back of the stadium, which I hadn't been there for a long, long time, and up and took my seat up in on the big stand on the far side, which is really strange, really, because I was watching the game from a completely different perspective in the fact that as a manager of the football club, I always walked out from the smaller stand now, as it were, from the maybe it's even called the main stand, but from the dressing room side. So to look at the stadium, not only to look at the stadium, but to look at the pitch from the other side of the ground was really strange for a while. But anyway, the team itself fought remarkably hard. I thought to myself, well, I'll let everybody stay and have their own time to each other. The people were very welcoming to me on the far side, very welcoming indeed. And I left with just about a minute to go. And I got into the car and just switched on the news, just thinking, well, that's at least that's a draw, it's a point in the board. And to find out that Rotherham had scored the late equaliser, or scored the late winner in the game, and a massive disappointment. So, but overall, just to be down there for that game was again a lovely experience for me.
This is Wycombe Sound.
Welcome back to the Christmas Eve edition of the Wycombe Wanderers Show. I hope you're enjoying our chat with Martin O'Neill. Still to come, some lighter parts of the show, including Bob's trip to Norwich. It's funnier than I made it sound. Also, though, we're catching up with Martin O'Neill. Fantastic to have time to speak with him, getting his thoughts on how he thinks Wycombe will do in the Championship. He was actually at their first Championship game against Rotherham, which was fantastic as well. We caught up with him just after the team played Nottingham Forest, another of his former clubs, of course. And also, it was just after the news that John Reardon had died, his former assistant. And we got his reaction, and he paid a fantastic tribute to John Reardon.
John, I'm so sad to hear the news. Really have. I know that that he had problems in the last couple of years of his life. I think that Alzheimer's was afflicting him. But he was. When you talk about characters at the football club or any football club, he was an absolute character in every aspect. And initially, I suppose maybe when I went to the football club, first of all, John Reardon was kind of thrust upon me in that sense, in the nicest possible way. But I ever said, "Oh, listen, he'll be a great sounding board. He'll be all of those things." And I suppose that me being young, rather impetuous, and wanting to do things on my own, I didn't really want people thrust upon me. I'd rather me make the decisions. Well, I've got to tell you, after a while, I was absolutely delighted with him. Delighted to have his company. He was terrific. He was funny. He was strong character as well too, really strong. Didn't take nonsense from the players either, and would join in some of the games. And now John was, a reasonable age at the time. Join in the matches, take all the hits as well too from the players coming flying in at him, dust himself down and get on with things. And really, really as brave as a lion. So I saw all of those things remarkably up close that he possessed as a footballer. And of course, I mean, he had a good record himself as a manager, but he, to say that he was a sounding board would be doing him a disservice. He became a really, really good friend. I genuinely loved him dearly. I thought he was great for the football club, magnificent for the football club, and really great for me as well too. Really sorry to hear the news, genuinely.
And what would be your message to Wycombe fans about their perhaps expectations in the Championship? Obviously, it was quite disappointing to go on such a losing run, but to get the first point, to get the first goal, to get the first win, it's been a real kind of. It feels like a corner's been turned.
Well, if the fans had been allowed into the stadium, for a couple of certainly particularly some of the early games, I think that would definitely have helped, because the crowd would have been right with the team, and perhaps maybe that game against Rotherham, it could have turned the corner. In fact, perfectly honest, Wycombe could have won the game dead easily. But it was always going to be difficult this season, really difficult. The Championship is a step up, and it's a big step up as well too. And there was going to be enjoyment of the season regardless of results. But I just knew that every single game was going to be a difficult encounter for them. But there's going to be whatever Wycombe lack in certain things. You could never talk about their never say die spirit, which was epitomised, of course, at Wembley in the playoff final. So yeah, I don't think anybody was under any illusion at all that this was a difficult task ahead. But for them to get a couple of wins now, which has been really, really terrific, and it'll give them that sort of boost of confidence that every side needs in this league. Losing some games was almost inevitable. Well, it was inevitable. If they can win the requisite number of matches to keep them in this league for this season, I think that would be an enormous achievement.
Well, it's been fantastic to speak to you. Really appreciate your time. Hope you and your family are staying well, and the lockdown's been kind to you. Have you been doing lots of Zoom calls, I imagine?
I've been doing a few Zoom calls, yes, Colin, I have, and yet remarkably still finding it difficult to press the right buttons here. But I think that I'm the more I do, the more I'm getting used to it. Listen, just to cap it all, I had the time of my life as a manager of Wycombe Wanderers Football Club. And so had my family as well too. My wife and daughters look back in those days with really fond memories, genuinely fond memories. And my two daughters on the pitch at Wembley, carrying little flags, and after one of our victories was moments that we'll treasure forever.
You mentioned that video. It must be so nice to sort of look back and, as you say, the opportunity to see your daughters on the pitch. And I know they went to school locally as well. And it must be really nice to kind of look back on that time.
I do, of course, yeah. They haven't seen it yet. I've deliberately kept them away from it at the moment. But if we can, if lockdown improves and we can all get together again, they're obviously living their own lives at this moment. But if we can, if there was a break in proceedings and Christmas, if people can gather together at Christmas time, it'd be nice to look at it. Absolutely. But wonderful days and as I say, lovely memory of it all.
And I know, so many Wycombe supporters are so pleased and proud for you that, you've gone on to manage such great teams and have such success at, as you say, Leicester and Celtic and Villa as well. And obviously at international level as well. It's been fantastic to follow your career too.
Well, some of these things may not have materialised at all had I not been given this opportunity. And there are lots of people down at Wycombe that I have to thank for that, naturally. Alan Parry for helping me getting an interview, even though it was a late stage and a decision had been made. But I think it was Kenny Swain. Kenny had been offered the job on the Sunday and turned it down on the Monday. And then I got the interview on the Tuesday with Ivor. And so Ivor took me on board. So a lot of the things you never know might not have materialised had I not got that opportunity. And but as I say, it was a wonderful 4 or 5 years of my life, and absolutely and utterly no regrets at all at any stage at all of that there. And I know that my family really loved those days, and I've real fond memories of the football club. Couldn't possibly feel any other way.
Are you hoping for a return to the dugout soon?
Oh, well, we'll have a look at that. Yes, COVID is determining a lot of in people's lives at this moment. Let's see what might materialise.
I really appreciate your time. It's been fantastic to speak to you. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that.
It's a pleasure, Colin. No problem.
Thank you very much to Martin O'Neill, and thank you to you as well, Colin, because that was a great interview. I enjoyed it the first time. I enjoyed it even more the second time. And Marty, you could just listen to him all day.
It's really nice to actually listen back, isn't it?
It is. I think almost, could we come up with a virtual Martin O'Neill so that we could all have him, rather than the annoying Siri voice that I have? Couldn't we have like Martin O'Neill doing that instead?
That would be excellent. Fantastic to speak to Sergio Torres. John Maskell was a favourite. Keith Scott and Glenn Creaser obviously were players that I sort of went to see early on in my Wycombe Wanderers viewing career.
Oh, Glenn Creaser, he was a good one, that as well.
He was the first.
Yes. Yeah.
But Len Worley, of course, fantastic names. We've got more great former players to come as well in the future, so make sure you keep listening for that. Another great aspect of the show, people have said that they like the elements of humour.
Yes, which was an unintended consequence of the programme.
Yeah, I didn't realise there was humour, to be honest.
No. Well, I think that mainly comes from you, probably. I think you're the Eric Morecambe of the programme.
I think you'll find, as you'll hear coming up, you're the source of much.
Well,
of
yes, well that's what I mean though. It's it's more you laughing at me than the other way around, but that's fine. I'm quite happy with that.
So we've got some. That's a relief. Otherwise, the next few minutes can be quite painful. So there are many times in the show.
That's it. I'm going. It's Christmas Eve, but I'm walking out.
No, don't go. There are many moments.
It's going to be like Den and Angie all over again.
I think the thing about a show is you've got to get off to a good start.
Yes.
You've got to be ready, haven't you?
Yeah.
Ready?
Yes.
Here's Bob. Very ready. Good evening and welcome to the latest episode of the Wycombe Wanderers Show. See, I've officially stopped counting now.
Indeed, yes. Sorry, I was momentarily...
We've started, by the way.
I know. I'm sorry. I was momentarily distracted by the amount of goals that Brentford have already scored this season.
It is a concern,
I was just looking
isn't
at it thinking, hang on, really? 17?
It does sound a lot when you say it like
I
that.
know, indeed. They've only played 11 games, and they're 11th as well. It's not like they're leading the league or anything.
In case you've just tuned in, we can play Brentford next.
Indeed, yes, absolutely. Sorry. I will be more on the ball for the next 58 minutes.
Just been doing some on-air research for the game.
Yes, not that we do our research right at the very last moment.
No, we don't. Well, some of it we do.
Such as looking up the number of goals that Brentford had scored.
It's nice, isn't it? You've got to pay attention from the get-go, I think.
Yeah, indeed. Sorry about that. I do feel bad.
Although, arguably, there have been occasions where you've paid a little too much attention, even before the show's properly started.
Yes, that's true. Well, it's a football show, so we're allowed to talk about other football-y things.
And in football, Rangers are on course to top their Europa League group. They're leading 1-0 at Lech Poznan. Meanwhile, Arsenal are 2-1 up against Dundalk. That's the latest. I'm Laura Safe.
Online, on Radio Player, and on 106.6 FM. This is Wycombe Sound, the Wycombe Wanderers Show.
A very good evening. Welcome along to the latest edition, see I've stopped counting them, of the Wycombe Wanderers Show. Is it 14? I think it's 14.
I think it is. Can I just say, I like the fact that the newsreader sounded really surprised that Arsenal are beating Dundalk. you think, well, they're a League of Ireland side. Really, Arsenal should be beating them.
Thanks for that.
Apologies if you're listening on the podcast, because that'll make no sense at all. Oh no, I've thrown Colin now as well.
Yeah, no, so it's fine.
I think it's fair enough for us to be commenting on football things as they happen during the show.
Yeah, of course.
I know it's the Wycombe Wanderers Show, but we can talk about other football things just in a minor way. Off topic, as they say on email things.
They do say that, don't they?
They do, yes.
So,
anyway, as you were saying, a very good evening, and yes, you have stopped counting the number of shows, which is good.
Thank you. Coming up this evening, we'll find out how Arsenal and Dundalk are getting on throughout the evening. I'm all for spontaneity, but
they won 4-2 in the end.
Are you a fan of Dundalk now?
Yes, sir. Yeah, definitely. Yes.
I look forward to seeing you in a Dundalk shirt. One of the highlights of doing the show, actually, probably must be for you as well. They actually get to go to the games.
It's very exciting, that, but also slightly fraught with danger.
Some of them are quite far away.
They are, yes.
And some of them you've not been to before.
That's true as well.
So you need to take extra care when getting there.
Some of them begin with the same word, which can be a bit confusing.
There's a lot of B's in the Championship.
There are, yes. Because again, I'm lucky enough that I am going up to Blackburn even on Saturday.
Maybe Blackpool as well.
Not Blackpool. Well, you never know. Might
on
be
your tour of the north.
Yes, if COVID
Who knows where you'll end up.
Exactly. You never know.
There's lots of B's in the Championship. I don't think Blackpool are one of them, though, are they?
No, I don't think they are. But you can understand me getting confused. And then, actually, a clip that we haven't got was you then thinking that Barnsley was to the left of Manchester?
Oh, I was geographically a bit lost by Barnsley.
Were. Yeah. It was a good job that we didn't send you to Barnsley. Another B, of course. Yes. And then also there's the fact that actually when I drive to these places, sometimes I'm slightly... I have confessed previously to bad driving habits.
Are you going to Norwich?
I am going to Norwich, yes.
There's an expression you don't hear very often.
Do you know
the way?
That's very stereotyped. I'm sorry, I didn't say that.
Do you know the way?
Just about, yes.
It's a long way, isn't it?
It is a long way, and also it's a real pain because there aren't really motorways in that bit of the world. So you have to. This is going to sound awful. You have to concentrate a bit more, if you know what I mean.
Watch out if you're on the roads and you see.
You know what I mean? Because there's roundabouts and stuff.
Roundabouts? Good Lord.
Whereas, when you go into Blackburn, it's fine because you just get on the M40 and basically it's motorways all the way. So you can just sit there and, and you don't really have to think too much. Whereas going to Norwich, too many roundabouts.
If Bob's not on the show next week, you might... Didn't concentrate nearly enough. How on earth did you make it back to and back from Preston?
Just about. Yeah, all of the northwest ones, though it's a bit of a pain, they're fine. But yeah, Norwich is difficult to get to.
Have you got a favourite place you've been to so far on your away travels?
Ooh,
I say favourite, must be hard to pick.
Well, probably Birmingham, because obviously we won. So you know how it is, that actually the journey home always seems a lot shorter when you win. Whereas, Preston or the Blackburn was a long way home.
City Ground must have been good to go to as well.
Yes, that was good, yeah, but obviously, again, we lost there. So
Norwich?
Derby was quite good.
Norwich, because you had to concentrate.
Yes, Norwich, because I had to concentrate. Derby as well, because obviously Wayne Rooney was there, because of course they're not called Derby anymore, they're called Wayne Rooney's Derby. But that was a bit weird when he was then just hanging about at the end being interviewed by like one Derby bloke, and there was just me and Phil Catchpole waiting for Gareth Ainsworth to come out, and we were the only 5 people sort of like in the stadium. And it was just a bit like, this is one of those weird times. I didn't think that I'd be standing sort of like in a group of 5 people with Wayne Rooney. Social distancing, of course. Anyway, it's time now for an apology to Gareth, because in the last away game against AFC Bournemouth, I was interviewing him, and there was this odd moment where he said something and he looked away at the same time, and it was the way that he said it. I thought that he'd said something he shouldn't have done,
but it turns out he didn't.
We've got our identity back. We're making noises in this league, and I want to make the biggest noise by causing the biggest upset to all the bookies in the world and staying in the Championship.
Might have to edit that bit out.
Bookies, he said.
I don't quite know what I think he said.
I don't think he thought he knew what he said.
I'm trying to work out what I must have thought bookies were, but it was the way he sort of like turned away, which he doesn't normally do. And he said, bookies! And he said it in a quite a cross way as well. So I thought, oh dear, okay.
But you're right to be on your guard after speaking
Indeed.
to Scott Cashket.
I was going to say, yes, so this did come after the Birmingham City Scott Cashket incident. Scotty, how was that? It was fantastic.
Yeah, very good to get the win, another win what we deserved. Watching the ball hit the net and then looking at the clock and thinking 90th minute, it was like, oh, about bloody time we got a bit like...
Thank you for that, Scott.
Good guest appearance from the lawnmower as well.
Yes, yeah, we've had quite a lot of lawnmowers actually in the background. In this next clip, I think you can possibly hear Ryan Alsop was desperately trying to put off the people who were being interviewed. So this interview took place in the car park after the Derby game. And Ryan Alsop wasn't, for some reason, he wasn't then travelling back with the rest of the team. So he was in a car and kept hooting the horn. I don't think you actually hear the horn in this bit. I think it made an appearance in my Pete Couhig interview. But this is when Matt Bloomfield was inventing a new teammate.
I know we cleared one off the line from their corner, but the big man took one on his chest and just went wide, and then Gareth McCarthy's Gareth McCleary's strike was unreal. He's been at the club a long time. It must be confusing too.
It must be, yeah. McCleary, McCarthy, Jason, Gareth. You can understand the problem. From earlier on in today's show, the steward's dropping a bit of a clanger. We quite enjoyed this one, and we left it in as well because it made us laugh.
Be nice to hear this again. Listen out for the clanging. There's excellent clanging.
He's come, released by Norwich. You've got to give credit to Bob Rickwood and Sam Grace who put the B team together. They saw Anish, they brought him in on trial. He shone. Oh, there's the stadium falling apart. We're okay.
I love the way he says we're okay. We're just carrying on with this interview.
It was about they dropped it directly behind Gareth, so I could see that it was about to fall, and he clearly couldn't, and so it did give him a bit of a shock, and he did slightly jump in the air, which is why I think he then clarified that we're okay. But yeah, that was quite good.
Of course, there was a point in the season where we didn't have Gareth to speak to after.
No, that's very true. And actually, both Matt Cecil and Dobbo really, they got a little bit possibly carried away, actually, in giving us information we didn't need to know. First of all, this is the game where Gareth wasn't there, which was, of course, a surprise. So I caught up with Matt Cecil before the kick-off to ask him actually what was going on.
I don't think there's anything in particular that's prompted it, but he's the wild thing, isn't he? He's had a rock and roll lifestyle, and that's maybe taken its toll as he approaches 50. So, hopefully he's not listened to this bit. But, he's good, and I'm sure he'll be leaping around on the touchline before long.
Brilliant. Okay, so he wasn't lugging an amp or anything like that?
Not that I'm aware of. It might be an embarrassing injury he doesn't want to tell anyone about.
Then later, after the Nottingham Forest game, Dobbo revealed quite an interesting fact about Gareth and his wife Donna's relationship that I don't think we needed to know. He kicks every ball when he's standing on the touchline. I can't imagine what he must be like at home, particularly presumably when he's being told that he's not allowed to do those things at the moment.
Yeah, I'm hoping Donna's tied him down at home and kept him still, because you're right. He's headed so many balls, and he's kicked me twice last season. He's actually kicked me as he's trying to kick a pretend ball on the touchline and apologised a couple of times. So I'm going to have to start wearing shin pads on the touchline, I think, when he's back.
Thanks for that, Dobbo. Yeah, that was an interesting image. And the final clip now, because you haven't really featured in any of these, but I wanted to finish on a very positive note. And one thing that we still haven't really discussed properly on this show is the fact that actually you read the football results across the whole commercial radio network, which is quite exciting and quite a responsibility. And you always normally read them in your very best neutral voice. but I did feel that we could slightly detect a little grin when you read this particular one out.
Wycombe Wanderers 1, Sheffield Wednesday 0.
Definitely, that was slightly more emphasising on the win than you would normally do.
Yeah, and similarly, I think when you get to like a 0-0 draw or something, or a Wycombe defeat, you just want to get it out and then move on.
Yeah, did you do a sort of like Blackburn Rovers 5, Wycombe Wanderers 0?
Yeah, not so good.
Yeah, in the way that the person who announces the opposition goal scorer at football grounds, you always feel it's like, goal scored for
definitely get more excited
number 9, and you think, oh yeah, okay.
I used to do the ground,
and I was going to say, and that's I know we're almost out of time, but those are two things that we need to speak to you about in the new year: is the fact that you do read the football results and that you used to do the announcements at Wycombe.
Well, that's fantastic. I remember, especially during the BSE crisis, I announced that beef burgers were being replaced by lamb burgers in the same way that you'd announce a substitution.
It's very, very good, the things that you remember. The BSE crisis, goodness me.
That's going back a bit.
It is, yeah. It seems quite tame to what we're going through now, really, doesn't it?
Different crisis now altogether. So thank you so much for listening. Have a fantastic Christmas. We'll be back in the new year. We'll be reviewing the festive fixtures as well. Thank you so much for listening to the Wycombe Wanderers Show here at Wycombe Sound. It's a lot of fun to do.
Yes, indeed. Merry Christmas. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you for everyone's nice comments that you've sent in since we started the show in September. We're not here next week for New Year's Eve, but we will be back on the Wycombe Wanderers Show from Thursday, the 7th of January at 7 p.m.